I was sitting there waiting for Stephen to say more because that's probably the shortest thing I've ever heard him say. But we have more from Stephen A. and Kevin Durant in this segment, so stay tuned. We'd like to welcome in Nick Friedell, fresh from San Francisco. Nick, I feel like you need like shell shock, some sort of medic team here with you on set because it was ugly last night. The Suns-Warriors game had Golden State already down by 29 points. The Warriors were down 29 to the Suns. And then this happened. Aaron Baines landing on Steph Curry. Curry, as we now know, has a broken left hand. The Warriors still determining if he needs surgery, what his recovery timetable will be after the results of a CAT scan came back. Aaron Baines, by the way, very much after the game talking about how this was an accident. And apologetic. Yeah. And it certainly looked like it. It didn't look like anything dirty, just a bad break. Nick, first of all, how shook was everyone after that game, and what do you think they will be doing next? Because tanking is now on the table.
Completely shell-shocked, Rach. It was like being in that locker room a couple months ago in Toronto when Kevin Durant tore his Achilles in Game 5. Guys looking up at the walls like, I can't believe this is happening. Staffers walking around Chase Center just completely in shock of what they had just seen. Now, as far as the tanking question goes, the Warriors are never going to fully embrace the tank. How do I know this? Because the Warriors owner is Joe Lacob, and that is a very proud man. He does not believe in just giving up on anything. Last night, I was standing in the Warriors locker room. I walked up with Joe. We started talking about Steph. He said, I feel very bad. I'm sad about it, but I think it's a good opportunity for the young players to find their own rhythm and grow. And then I said, Joe, obviously, you understand now there's going to be speculation about you guys tanking. And how does that, and I couldn't even finish the question, and he looks at me and he goes, what did you say? And I said, well, you understand there's going to be questions about tanking in the future. He said, what word did you use? And I said, tanking. And
they're not allowed to use that word.
Well, exactly, but I couldn't tell if he was kind of just playing with me or if he was dead serious. Rach, he was very serious. He said, I'm not even going to discuss that, and he walked away. And he walked out of the building.
But there's a difference. I mean, I always think it's interesting when we talk about tanking. Sometimes we overuse the word because sometimes the teams are not very good. And there are times where obviously where you don't play your best lineups and you don't necessarily make the most active moves during the season. We definitely had, one of our producers brought up, Michael Bobmer brought up the idea that this could be a Spurs situation, right? Where David Robinson gets hurt and they get a low draft pick and end up drafting Tim Duncan, right? So maybe this happens to a loaded Warriors team that has Steph and Klay coming back next year from injuries. That could happen. I don't know, Richard, what do you think is going to happen with this team? Because you have been active talking about them. You tweeted at Draymond last week.
Yeah.
And then he answered you back in post-game comments.
See, the funny thing is when I tweeted at Draymond look, I played with Draymond. I know the type of leader he is, and I was disappointed from playing against him and playing with him that he would be so somber on the wall after 2 games. And he was somber. He was just like, well, I guess only Tim Duncan's been through this. And it's like, dude, it's 2 games. You guys are fine. Keep that same energy that you had. Lo and behold, it took 1 win, and his energy was back. His energy was back, calling out former players, saying that we were overreacting. Well, I thought he was overreacting after those 2 games. And so most of it is from the respect that I have for him. They are going to tank. They are going to tank because they are not very good, not because they are intentionally doing it. They had their entire roster and they weren't very good. So you take away the 2-time MVP, and look, this is what I say. It's like hearing you talk about a rebuild after 2 bad games is an overreaction, right? And that's and I'm tagging him because I'm not hiding from him.
But are they going to be more in a rebuilding year now?
Oh, the rebuilding year started once that first ball was tossed up. And now we're in a space where it's like, okay, there's heat off him, but there's going to be a lot of focus on Draymond now, right? There's going to be a lot of focus on the type of leader he is. How is he going to play? How is he going to perform, especially without multiple Hall of Famers around him?
I completely agree with Richard, and I'd add this. If you're Joe Lacob, you can't come out and say, we're going to tank. That's not going to make the league office happy. But the Warriors understood, especially Steph and Draymond looking out on the floor, they're not a good team. The roster is what it is in large part because they're hard capped. They had to make the decision to sign D'Angelo Russell to a max deal. These players are very young, a lot of them. They don't know where to be on the floor. In the back half of that roster, they haven't proven themselves. There are a lot of G League guys right now playing. So you can call it whatever you want. He doesn't want to call it tanking. The roster isn't good enough to go and make some push and make the playoffs. So you're going to be very, very cautious about Steph. And I think the key for me in this is Klay Thompson.
I was going to say, now
He's
it's
done.
hard to see
Clay's
Klay
done.
Thompson
Exactly.
coming back this
Take off
season.
all 82.
And look, the way the new lottery system works, teams don't have to go to extreme measures to have good lottery odds, right? You have the bottom three all have the same lottery odds. Other teams, as you saw with the Pelicans, still have decent lottery odds and can get that top pick. So I think we'll see them be the bad team that we expect because they're just devastated by these injuries. And then we will see them possibly make a Spurs-like run after that. Who knows? I want to get to former Warrior Kevin Durant because he was indeed on First Take this morning. He discussed his argument with Draymond Green back in November of last year and how that incident factored into him leaving Golden State. Very strong on this. Take a listen.
Draymond knew that he was out of line. And as men, we talked about it. And everybody around tried to get us to mend it fast because of the season, and we wanted to win. But he had his process on how he wanted to handle things, and I respected that, and I had my process, and eventually we came together.
Last question on this subject, just to be clear, because I don't recall an answer to this question. Did that play a role in you leaving Golden State?
A little bit, yeah, for sure.
For sure. He later said definitely when he was explaining a little bit more. Are you surprised to hear this now? Because this incident has been dissected for basically a year, and he's still coming out with sort of strong words about it.
No, I'm not. And I think this just goes to show just how deep and strong of a cloud there was hanging over this team all year. That was the issue all along. I would say that not only do I believe Kevin, but there are a lot of layers here. There always are when you're talking about his situation with the Warriors. Before that incident, there were a ton of people in the organization that thought he was gone.
And he brought up in this interview, he said, look, I kind of could see where the team was going, where all of our salaries were going, and the makeup of the team. He said, I thought it was time for something new. We've heard him talk about his friendship with Kyrie Irving. Jackie McMullen just did a great story talking about sort of how they became friends during the Olympics in Rio and wanted to play together. There's a lot of reasons, right?
Well, and this is why we're talking about leadership, right? We just talked about Draymond and his leadership and how he called out a bunch of former players that were being critical of him. It could have been myself included about the first two games. Well, Draymond was very instrumental in bringing Kevin Durant in. He was very vocal, talking about the phone call and went straight to his car, but he was also instrumental in him leaving, right? Draymond was very instrumental in them winning championships, but he was also very instrumental in helping the Cavs get back into. So it's like he's been as good as he has been as instrumental in some of the bad. And so this is an opportunity for Draymond to now go and lead. My thing with Kevin Durant is he's telling the truth. It wasn't the only reason. But when you have somebody say the things that were said to you in that moment, it's just there's certain things that you do not say in any relationship. And he crossed that line. He got suspended. But now there is an opportunity for Draymond. Go be a leader. I know you can lead. You've proven it. But there's also been some bad leadership moments also by you.
I'd add this, though, real quickly. The incident itself was bad, but I truly believe that they got through it. They got over it. The issue for both of those guys and for the team at large, all anybody did was ask him about it.
Yeah.
Right.
It was constant. Hey, are you guys all right? Right, exactly. Are you guys all right? Is everything going to be okay moving forward? It was the issue internally in the locker room that would not go away, even though they tried to push it away because the media and fans kept bringing it up.
Yeah.
Well, Nick, thank you so much for dropping in. I don't know if we get you tomorrow, if you're going to have to race back up
We'll
to
see.
watch Steph Curry's hand. I know a lot of Warriors fans really are it's a tough morning.
It's just 6
including
weeks,
for
guys. It's
producer
8
Eitan.
weeks. 2
Truly,
months, he'll be
I
back.
really believe it's a blessing in disguise for the group, though, on the whole, because moving forward,
I don't like to talk about
you've got a $17 million trade exception for Iguodala. You've got to decide what you're doing with D'Angelo Russell. And then you get Klay Thompson back next summer. This is a team with a high draft pick that can do some major damage going into next season.
You saw what the Lakers did when they got the fourth pick.
Coming up, we're going to talk more about that Jackie McMullen article I referenced. Kyrie Irving spoke for the first time since then. What did he have to say? How deep are the Nets' early season issues? Dave McMenamin will be back. We're going to discuss it after the break. First, though, here's our Jump Recommends for today.